They told you your prime was in your 20s, that your value peaked with youth and everything after was a slow fade. But you're not built for their timeline. You're a Sigma woman, and your rise doesn't begin with applause. It begins in silence, in solitude, and in strength forged through experience. Your 30s and 40s aren't a decline. They're the evolution. This is the season where you stop explaining and start embodying. You no longer chase. You choose. You don't seek approval. You move with purpose. And as others follow trends, you carve a path they can't predict. You've grown past the noise, the expectations, and the need to be understood. Now you stand grounded, focused, and powerful. Not because the world gave you permission, but because you gave it to yourself. If you're ready to stop shrinking and start owning your presence, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the Sigma Sisterhood channel, where strength, solitude, and self-mastery are not just values, they're a lifestyle. Your best years aren't behind you. They're just beginning. 1. The mastery phase, where strength becomes second nature. In your 20s, life often feels like a chaotic maze, full of experiments, stumbles, and hard-earned lessons. You try on different roles, friendships, and dreams, not because you're lost, but because you're learning. But once you hit your 30s and 40s, something powerful happens. You enter the mastery phase, the era where you no longer guess who you are. You know who you are. This is the point where Sigma women truly start to shine. You've outgrown the need for constant approval and you're done molding yourself to fit in. That exhausting era of trial and error, it served its purpose. It gave you clarity. Now your strength isn't something you work on. It's become instinctive, part of your foundation. Your decisions no longer come from a place of fear or uncertainty. You trust your intuition because it's been tested. You recognize patterns, you spot red flags quickly, and you don't hesitate to walk away from anything misaligned. You're not paralyzed by what-ifs anymore. You know that mistakes are teachers, not threats. And that confidence you once tried to manufacture, it now radiates naturally. You speak less, but your words land deeper. You no longer feel the need to be loud to be heard. Your presence says enough. You don't seek external validation because you've cultivated internal peace. You've learned that real strength is quiet. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. While society glorifies youth, the Sigma female glorifies wisdom. And with age comes refinement, not just of style or goals, but of self. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You've already earned your place. This phase is powerful because you finally become the architect of your own reality. You aren't led by the crowd. You aren't tempted by every shiny distraction. You build with purpose, love with discernment, and lead with grace. So if you're stepping into your 30s or already walking through your 40s, take a moment to breathe in this truth. You're not late. You're just entering your prime. The groundwork has been laid. The lessons are behind you. Now it's time to master the woman you've become. 2. Selective energy investment. The art of saying no without explanation. There's a quiet revolution that begins when a Sigma woman steps into her 30s and 40s, and it starts with a simple but powerful word: no. In your 20s, you might have said yes too often. Yes to people-pleasing. Yes to draining conversations. Yes to obligations that chipped away at your peace just to avoid disappointing others. But not anymore. You've learned that your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. This is the age where you become ruthlessly selective about where your energy goes. You no longer scatter it like confetti. You invest it like currency. Every interaction, every commitment, every relationship now goes through an internal filter. Does this add value to my life? Or does it deplete me? If it drains you, you walk away. No apology necessary. You stop showing up out of guilt. You stop over-explaining your choices. You don't justify your silence, your boundaries, or your priorities. You know that saying no doesn't make you rude. It makes you aware. It means you're living life on your terms. This shift unsettles people who once thrived on your availability. You may be called distant or hard to reach, but that's not your problem. That's their reaction to your growth. What they see as detachment is actually self-respect. What they call cold is your warmth being preserved for the right people and the right purposes. And here's the truth most won't say out loud. The more you say no to what doesn't serve you, the more powerful and magnetic you become. Why? Because people can feel the difference between someone who's accessible to everyone and someone who guards their time like gold. This stage of life is about intentional living. You're done watering dead plants. You're done overextending. You're done explaining yourself to people who were never listening. Now, you reserve your energy for what actually fuels your growth: meaningful conversations, aligned relationships, purpose-driven goals. And you do it all without guilt. So next time you say no, say it with your full chest. Say it knowing you're not being difficult, you're being discerning. Because the Sigma female doesn't exist to entertain the world. She exists to elevate herself, and only those who respect that will rise with her. 3. The wealth of solitude, no longer afraid to stand alone. Most people fear solitude. They see it as loneliness, as something to escape, a space that feels empty. But for the Sigma woman, solitude isn't a void, it's a sanctuary. By the time you reach your 30s and 40s, something within you shifts. You stop fearing silence. You stop chasing company for the sake of comfort. You no longer need a room full of people to feel seen, because you've realized the truth. Solitude is where your power lives. This isn't the kind of isolation that comes from bitterness or detachment. It's the kind that comes from deep inner peace. You've learned that not all connections are nourishing, and not all attention is meaningful. And so, rather than fill your space with noise and distraction, you choose to sit with yourself and grow. In your younger years, you may have felt pressured to always be around others. Friends, dates, social scenes, all part of the performance of being connected. But eventually you realized that many of those interactions were surface level. They didn't feed your soul, they drained it. Now you walk a different path. You go to dinner alone and enjoy the peace. You skip social events without guilt. You spend your weekends building your vision instead of chasing validation. And in doing so, you tap into a frequency most people never reach, the frequency of self-mastery. Solitude becomes your workshop, your thinking space, your power zone. While others fill every empty moment with scrolling, gossip, or oversharing, you're planning, healing, creating. You're not escaping the world. You're simply no longer dependent on it to feel whole. And here's the paradox. The more comfortable you become alone, the more magnetic you become to others. People are drawn to your self-sufficiency. They admire your calm, your control, your ability to thrive in your own company. You don't chase. And that's why you're noticed. The Sigma woman doesn't fear being alone because she knows solitude is a source, not a sentence. It's where clarity sharpens, it's where confidence is born. And it's where the blueprint for the next level of your life gets written, quietly, powerfully, and on your own terms. 4. Financial and emotional independence, the true definition of freedom. There's a specific kind of power that can't be bought, borrowed, or begged for. It has to be built. And when a Sigma woman reaches her 30s and 40s, that's exactly what she steps into. A life she owns. In your 20s, dependence can feel normal, whether it's leaning on a partner for financial support, relying on friends for emotional stability, or needing external validation to feel secure. It's part of the journey. You're still learning how to stand. But by your 30s and 40s, the training wheels are off. And the Sigma woman doesn't just stand. She soars. Financial independence is no longer a goal. It's your baseline. You've carved your own path, whether it's through a career, a business, or multiple income streams. You no longer live in fear of, what if he leaves? Or, how will I manage on my own? Because you already know you can. Your money is your tool, not a leash. It gives you options. It gives you power. Most importantly, It gives you freedom. The freedom to walk away from toxic environments, the freedom to invest in your growth, and the freedom to design a life that reflects your values, not someone else's demands. But even more powerful than financial freedom is emotional independence. You're not looking for someone to complete you, because you're already whole. You're not thrown off by rejection, ghosting, or criticism. You've built an inner world that doesn't crumble just because someone else walks away. You've learned how to self-soothe, how to feel your emotions without being consumed by them. You can be vulnerable without being needy, open without being dependent. That's rare, and it's revolutionary. Most people are terrified of standing alone, but not you, because you've realized that true power is self-generated. You don't need to be rescued, you don't need to be validated, and you certainly don't need to be saved. You are the one who saves yourself. This is what real freedom looks like, when no one controls your emotions, your money, or your direction, when every step you take is a choice, not a compromise. For the Sigma woman, your 30s and 40s aren't just a phase, they're your launchpad. And now you move not because you must, but because you can. 5. The unseen glow-up. When confidence becomes magnetic. The world has sold a myth for generations that a woman's glow fades with time, that her beauty, her charm, her value somehow peak in her 20s and quietly decline after. But the Sigma female destroys that narrative completely, because her glow isn't about looks, it's about presence. And that presence? It becomes undeniable in her 30s and 40s. This is the age of the unseen glow-up, a transformation that can't be captured in a selfie or explained in a caption. It's the kind of glow that radiates from within. It's not about makeup or fashion trends, it's about how you carry yourself, how you speak without needing to shout, how you walk into a room and shift the energy without saying a word. In your younger years, you may have tried to prove your worth through appearance, through constant availability, through trying to be everything for everyone. But now, you've stopped performing, you've stopped seeking. And paradoxically, that's when the world starts paying attention. Because confidence, real confidence, can't be faked. And when you've lived through enough heartbreaks, setbacks, redirections, and reinventions, you no longer need to wear armor. You become the armor. People start to notice you, not because you demand attention, but because you command respect. You're not loud, but you're unmistakable. You're not flashy, but you're unforgettable. This glow-up is spiritual, mental, emotional, and yes, physical too, but not in the way society expects. Your beauty becomes deeper because it's rooted in self-awareness, clarity, and calm. You don't chase, you attract. You don't need validation. You become the standard. You don't waste time oversharing or trying to prove your worth. You've mastered the art of restraint, of intentional mystery. And that mystery? It's magnetic. What once may have felt like invisibility now becomes intentional presence. You're not fading. You're focusing. You're not aging. You're ascending. And the best part? This glow-up isn't temporary. It doesn't fade when a trend changes or when the spotlight shifts. It's a permanent evolution. Once you step into your power, you don't shrink again. For the Sigma woman, this is the era where beauty becomes unshakable energy, and confidence becomes your quiet superpower. 6. The power of minimalism, cutting out the unnecessary for maximum impact. There's a misconception that strength is about doing more, having more, being everywhere at once. But the Sigma woman knows better. Real power lies in subtraction, not addition. And by the time she enters her 30s and 40s, she doesn't just understand this, she embodies it. This is the era where minimalism becomes your secret weapon, not just in your closet or your home, but in your mind, your relationships, and your entire way of living. You stop overcommitting. You stop chasing people. You stop carrying dead weight, emotionally, socially, even physically. The clutter that once distracted you, gone. The people who once drained you, Released. The thoughts that used to spiral in your mind? Silenced. Because you no longer live for the noise. You live for alignment. In your 20s, you may have confused more with better. More friends, more events, more goals, more to prove. But now, you crave less, fewer distractions, deeper conversations, simpler routines, and more intentional choices. Your circle gets smaller, but your peace expands. Your schedule becomes lighter, but your impact grows stronger. You don't say yes to everything. You say yes to what aligns and no to everything else, without guilt, without over-explaining. Minimalism, for the Sigma woman, is not about scarcity. It's about precision. Every relationship, every decision, every habit is filtered through one question. Does this serve me or slow me down? And when the answer is no, you let it go. Quickly, cleanly, completely. Your environment reflects your inner world. No more chaotic spaces that mirror chaotic thoughts. Instead, your space becomes intentional, calming, and functional, designed to support your purpose, not impress others. But the most profound shift? Mental minimalism. You stop ruminating on what you can't control. You don't entertain drama or old wounds. You free your mind from the burden of needing to be everything for everyone. This kind of clarity is rare. And it's why your presence feels so grounded, so focused, so different. The Sigma woman in her 30s and 40s doesn't just simplify her life. She sharpens it. She knows that power isn't in how much you hold on to. It's in how much you're willing to release. Because when you strip away the noise, only what matters remains. And that is where your true force lives. 7. The no-nonsense boundary system, unapologetic self-respect. By the time a Sigma woman enters her 30s and 40s, she's no longer negotiating with the world about what she deserves. She's done tiptoeing around people's feelings to keep the peace. This is the era where she builds her fortress, and the walls are called boundaries. In your 20s, boundaries were blurry. You might have let people overstep. You may have kept quiet to avoid conflict, stayed in situations longer than you should have, or allowed energy drainers to linger out of guilt or fear. You said yes when you meant no. You apologized for needing space. But not anymore. Now, your boundaries are firm. Not because you're cold, but because you finally understand your worth. You no longer feel the need to justify your decisions, explain your silence, or overextend to prove your loyalty. You know that anyone who truly values you will respect your limits, not challenge them. This no-nonsense boundary system becomes your armor. And while it might make some people uncomfortable, especially those who are used to your former flexibility, it also acts as your filter. The wrong people fall away. The right ones rise to the occasion. You no longer tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional games. If someone ghosts you, you let them stay gone. If a situation drains you, you walk away, quickly and cleanly. If a relationship demands your silence in exchange for peace, you choose your voice every time. You're not here to accommodate egos or soften your truth. You're here to live unapologetically aligned. Some may call you intimidating. Others may label you distant. But what they really mean is this: they can't manipulate you. And that's not your problem. Because boundaries aren't about building walls to keep people out. They're about building doors that only open to the right energy. You no longer chase. You no longer explain. You simply enforce. And that's what makes this stage of life so powerful. You finally stop shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. You stop tolerating half-love, half-effort, and half-truths. You require wholeness or nothing at all. The Sigma woman doesn't bend for comfort. She stands for truth. And her boundaries? They're not barriers. They're standards, non-negotiable, unshakable, and long overdue. 8. The unexpected rise in influence. When mystery becomes strength. There's something captivating about a woman who doesn't need to be seen to be felt. A woman who doesn't overshare, doesn't over-explain, and doesn't broadcast her every move. That woman is the Sigma female. And in her 30s and 40s, Her influence begins to rise in a way that even she didn't expect. The beauty of it, she's not trying. In a world obsessed with visibility, she becomes powerful through intentional silence. She doesn't spill her secrets to be relatable. She doesn't rush to post every win. She doesn't need to constantly update the world to feel validated. Her moves are quiet, calculated, and deliberate. And that mystery? It draws people in. As you evolve into this stage of life, you no longer feel the urge to prove yourself. You've seen enough, lost enough, and grown enough to realize that less is more. You speak when it matters. You move when it counts. And people begin to wonder, what is she up to? You become unpredictable, and therefore unforgettable. While others are addicted to being known, you've mastered the art of being undeniable. Your energy becomes rare, your presence refined, and without saying much, you begin to command the kind of respect that can't be faked, the kind that's earned in the shadows. This is the paradox. The less you reveal, the more people want to know. The more you pull back, the more others lean in. You're no longer in the spotlight, but the spotlight follows you. Why? Because influence built on depth, discipline, and discernment doesn't need applause to matter. People feel your strength in how calmly you walk away, in how you don't chase, compete, or explain, in how you protect your vision, guard your energy, and elevate quietly while the rest of the world performs. This isn't fame. This is influence born from authenticity. You didn't plan to become magnetic. You simply mastered yourself, and that made you magnetic. So when they say you've changed, smile. You didn't change. You evolved. And now, without effort or noise, you're rising into the most powerful version of yourself. You've become the woman they can't quite figure out. And that's exactly where your strength lives. They said your best years were behind you, that your worth was tied to youth, that your fire would fade with time. But now, here you are, wiser, stronger, calmer, and more dangerous than ever. Because the Sigma woman doesn't rise when the world expects her to. She rises when she decides to. And that moment? It doesn't happen in your 20s. It happens when the noise fades and the truth sets in. That everything you were looking for was never out there. It was always within. Your 30s and 40s aren't a decline. They're your ascension. You've mastered yourself. You no longer apologize for your peace, your power, or your boundaries. You don't over-explain, overextend, or overgive. You've stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. Now you expand, boldly, unapologetically, and on your own terms. This is your era of mastery over chaos, selective energy that fuels purpose, solitude that breeds clarity, independence that builds true freedom, confidence that speaks without words, minimalism that sharpens focus, boundaries that protect peace, mystery that commands influence. You no longer move for applause. You move for purpose. You are the woman who builds in silence, speaks with intention, and leaves behind anything that doesn't match her frequency. While others cling to outdated timelines, you've shattered the clock entirely. Your life begins not at some societal checkpoint, but the moment you choose yourself fully. So if you've ever felt like you were behind, let this be your confirmation. You are exactly on time. You're not late. You're just becoming. And the world hasn't even seen the full extent of your power yet. Welcome to your prime. Welcome to your rise. Subscribe to the Sigma Sisterhood channel. Because this isn't just content. It's a movement. And your evolution? It's only just beginning.